Okay, we're good. I had to click go live still. Can you post on YouTube? I mean, I can hear
We're
you.
live.
Now.
We're live, baby. We're live.
We are live.
Wait, do you want to do a quick countdown? Let people trickle in.
Okay, sure. Yeah, why not?
Okay, folks, let's take a couple minutes here. Let a little audience. Okay, that's our intro. That's our logo staying at the beginning, baby. We're getting
that was
better.
Legit.
Let's go. Okay, welcome, folks. This is Matt. This is episode 9 of the Three Markets podcast, guys. Every week, Matt and I come together. We chat industry news, market analysis, all things prediction markets, your Koshi markets, your poly markets, a little bit of theory mixed in there as well. And most recently experimenting with the live format, folks. So please chime in on the comments there. I think, do we have comments enabled on YouTube, Matt?
I think the last time we checked, we didn't. So we probably should set that up if we want the YouTube fans to come in and leave some comments.
Why is YouTube not? That's so weird. Well, we will get that fixed for you, folks. We have a great episode for you guys today. Okay, we'll be talking OpenAI New York Times lawsuit market. That's a Koshi exclusive market that I want to draw your attention to, Matt. There's been a little bit of a shakeup in my Google year-end search market. For folks who've been following Three Markets, I have a pretty high conviction process behind the Google year-end search markets on both Koshi and poly markets. So we'll take a look at those. Matt, what do you have for us today?
Yeah, I got a few things. So I have some data sources, or one in particular that seems pretty interesting that I think. Oh, thank you. Actually, I really appreciate it. I have a data source for I think other folks would use for. I'm sorry, I kind of slipped a little bit. It's a news aggregator.
Love from the audience here, bro. Absolutely.
I know. It caught me off guard. I was like, wow, that was such a positive and great comment. So I really appreciate it. But yeah, so data source, I have 2 markets that seem interesting. One of them that's related to holidays. But also you and I have been talking a little bit before this podcast about LLM arena and some aspects of it. So I'm actually more excited to get into that as quickly as possible. And then afterwards we can kind of share the other markets. So unless you had other topics.
Yeah, let's start with the Gemini 3 market. Maybe very quickly before we get to it, I like to check our our weekly volume, right? Just to kick things off, check in on prediction markets. And what I noticed for this week, Matt, is, we have a little bit of an outsized performance here by Opinion. Do you know the prediction market platform Opinion?
Only by name, but I'm actually not familiar with it. Can you tell me more?
No, I wish I could. I didn't notice this until. I mean, I guess what's
Is
good
Opinions Binance's?
I think it might be a Binance thing.
I think it's a Binance thing.
We'll dedicate some time in a future episode, I think, to looking at the platforms, folks. But I mean, what's crazy here is that the volume on Opinion seems to have actually for the week eclipsed Polymarket. So we have a third player in the prediction market scene, a third serious player. That's really interesting to see. Koshi, once again doing as they regularly do now, over $1 billion in notional volume on a weekly basis. Polymarket just shy of $1 billion for the week, although they're typically right at that $1 billion number. And then Opinion coming in with nearly 1.5 billion leading volume for prediction markets this week is kind of a crazy thing and something that I don't think discussed a ton on prediction market Twitter or elsewhere.
Yeah, it's only the beginning too, especially with I think we obviously know FanDuel, DraftKings, and a few other sportsbooks are also going to be releasing theirs too. So we'll see how the liquidity fragments. It's kind of similar to early days crypto. When we first were getting into it, Uniswap was kind of the main one of the main dexes out there, and then you just saw a Cambrian explosion of those as people realized how popular it was. So we're going to see the same with prediction markets. We're going to see what happens in the next couple of years as to.
There's room for innovation, as we know. I mean, we had part of the team from Melee on in, I think, episode 6, and that was really interesting just to see the different approaches people are taking. One other thing that you'll appreciate, Matt, before we get into the Gemini market is that, and related to our chart, this week, Koshi announced a partnership with Dune. So they're providing fully queryable, accurate, and continuously updated Koshi market data for everyone on Dune. Polymarket, of course, does this because a lot of their market data is natively on-chain. But my understanding is that for dashboards like the one that we were looking at of weekly volume, Koshi data had to actually be kind of manually imported previously by folks trying to analyze this. So very cool that Dune is really becoming the place to look at data like this for both Polymarket and Dune, and I suspect and Koshi, and I suspect the opinion market is on chain.
Yeah, definitely. Dune's a really great tool for those who haven't used it. Definitely give it a check because it's a great place to practice SQL, whether it's like for crypto stuff or if you're specifically interested in prediction markets. There's a lot for you there. There's also other dashboards that you can fork and clone. I'm giving a shout out to Dune. This is not sponsored at all. I just really like using Dune, and I like using it to pull data.
Okay, I'm looking for my Gemini 3 market.
In the meantime, I'm gonna open this cranberry ginger brew from Trader Joe's. Also not a sponsored thing, but I've been really enjoying it.
We have a bunch.
Oh, you really? Do you love them?
Really good. They're really good.
They're so good.
Yeah, they are tasty. Why can't I find the Gemini 3? Well, I can't find it on Koshi. Let me see if I can find the. This didn't resolve, did it?
Also, we missed this a little bit earlier, but hello, iPatio. iPatio? Yeah, I think that's what your name is.
Guys, if there's markets that you want us to cover as part of our experiment with the live format, please drop those in the chat. But I think we'll start today's episode with coverage of the Google Gemini 3 score on LM Arena by December 31st market. So as you know, Matthew, Gemini 3 dropped this week. We were actually wrong in last week's episode. We spent a little bit of time talking about the markets, covering when will Gemini 3 release. And I distinctly remember myself saying that I felt like before the end of the year market trading at 97 cents at the time was overpriced. Boy, was that wrong. It took less than a week for Gemini 3 to drop. It's been really fun playing around with it. But what caught my attention was this market, Google Gemini 3 score on LM Arena by December 31st. There's a number of other markets related to this. Will Google, this is the Humanities Last Exam one. But in particular, this is the one I want to talk about. Will any AI model reach 1,500 plus on Chatbot Arena by December 31st. Chatbot Arena and Elm Arena are the same thing. It's very confusing that these markets are referring to the same benchmark, but using the previous name, I think, of what is now LM Arena.
That is
let me
odd.
share LM Arena. So if we go to LM Arena and we go to the leaderboard, this is where we're looking at the scores for, every AI model. And as you can see, Gemini 3 Pro coming in hot at a 14.95. What stood out to me was they actually, as part of their kind of marketing effort, I was watching a podcast with the head of Google DeepMind, and they kind of were marketing that Gemini 3 is the first model to break 1500 on Arena. The reason for that is if you come into the score and you disable style control, which we'll talk about what that does, at the time, it was scoring a 15.1 on this. Scores are constantly changing as users contribute votes. And I want to ask you a little bit more about how that works, Matt. But the poly market and the Koshi markets that are related to the Arena score for Gemini 3 all resolve based on, it says it in here, with the style control unchecked. So the first mistake people can make is by just turning immediately to LM Arena and not unchecking this style control. I took a second to actually dig into okay, what does style control do? And they had shared some time ago a post on, does style matter, which basically says, we are attempting to normalize, to remove, the impact of style. And for them, they're referring specifically to length and markdown. So, when a chatbot responds and it has a bunch of H1s and bullet points and whatever, that's the use of markdown, which they're calling style, and length. Interesting though, they're not really able to control for vocabulary and what users might call personality with this style control. And I think this is actually relevant to a prediction market trader trading in this market because of how these scores are actually arrived at. So what I know is that LM Arena is an application where users can vote themselves. I'll ask, what's the best prediction market podcast? And we'll see which wants to dig up the Three Markets pod. So the results are anonymized, right? I don't know which model assistant A is and which model assistant B is. And you can already see that style, the use of markdown is different here. My job, look, Odd Lots shows up. That's hilarious. Your job as a user then using this is now to vote on which of the responses you most prefer. And I understand that somehow contributes to the LM Arena score with some kind of ELO-like thing. I'm not really familiar with ELO, Matt. I know you are a bit of an ELO guy. So walk us through that.
Definitely, yeah. I can do it a few ways. So I can talk about it more generally, holistically, and then dive into the white paper itself. We could work our way backwards. Is there any preference that you would want?
I don't even know what ELO. I don't really know.
Yeah.
I guess I know it's used in chess. I really should know. But we'll start with ELO. And then I know LM Arena isn't using ELO exactly, maybe?
It's using kind of like a slight, it's almost exactly like ELO, but with a little bit of a twist, a bit of a difference. So let me actually share my screen and talk a little bit about ELO scores at first, because I actually think ELO is a little bit more intuitive than what they're using, which is called the Bradley-Terry model. Both almost exactly the same, but the only exception being some of the parameters are changed. So just as you mentioned, the ELO rating system is a system that's used primarily within chess. So what happened was, as chess players were playing against each other, they needed to find a way to measure the skill between two players. And how they did that was they came up with this system, this rating system, that as players played against each other, their rankings would go up and down depending on the win or a loss. But what's tough is that, as they were kind of building out the system, they wanted to figure out a way to say, okay, how do we have a system that not only inherently predicts who's likely to be the winner, but also to not punish people when there's a really big gap in skill. Sometimes there might be, let's say you play against Magnus Carlsen, you have a chess rating, he has a chess rating, I think it's closer to 3,000 or something. Someone correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, because I haven't looked at chess ratings in a long time. But let's say you just started playing and your default rating is at 1,200. These are just arbitrary numbers that are selected. And actually, you know what? I'll show a little tool, an ELO rating simulator that I just built minutes before this call went live. So let's see if this works. But if you have someone who has like a really high rating, playing against someone who is, has a default rating, like I mentioned before, then you can see that there's almost no chance that you're going to beat Magnus Carlsen in a chess match. But when that happens, the ELO rating system will, or actually, I'm realizing I'm not sharing this tab. Boom, there it is. Can you see this?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. So yeah, when there's two players playing against each other and there's a really big gap in their skill level, then that gap would kind of show their implied probability of like winning against each other. So if you lost against Magnus Carlsen, your rating is not going to change at all because it's expected. It's like there's no way, you had no shot at beating him. But if you did win, then your ELO would just like skyrocket relative to player B, who was expected to win. I'll stop there because I'm kind of rambling a little bit, but yeah,
how do players get a score to start with?
Yeah, so depending on the system, a lot of the times they just give you a random score. Not random, but they'll give you a default score, like a benchmark to start off with. So in chess, if you just log into chess.com, you're probably going to get a score of like 1200 or maybe 800. It just depends. Because they have no information on you, right? So at the beginning, it's like, I have no information on you. I have no idea who you are. So we're just going to start you with a score, and we're just going to throw you right in with other people with the same score and see how you perform.
Right. Interesting.
Depending on how big the win or the loss is, let's say you're 1200, you just jumped in, you barely know the rules of the game. You play someone who has played thousands of games and they're actually calibrated well at 1200, and they beat you without losing a piece. Then that gap in how much they beat you is actually factored into this ELO equation, and will punish you even further. So you'll get like, it'll be faster calibrated to something at a lower level. So let's say in this case, it doesn't look like I'm able to, in this tool that I made, it doesn't look like I set up, maybe K factor is probably what we'll do. Yeah, so there's some parameter, it's not here within this tool, but there's a parameter that you can set to show like the gap in how much you've won or lost, and that will adjust your ranking accordingly. So in the context of LM Arena, you might have a model that's like, never doesn't have a rating at all, or maybe they use some kind of like prior based off of previous releases. Your adjustment when competing against other models is going to change at a rate of like, depending on how many people vote for model A versus model B. Let me stop there to see if there's anything that you'd want clarity on or something I could explain.
No, I think that makes sense. So Google drops Gemini 3. It enters the LM Arena ELO tournament effectively. Users prompt a prompt. They get responses from multiple anonymous models. We don't even know. It could be Quen or it could be Grok. And they then choose their preferred response. And that is basically, to borrow the chess analogy, that is a chess game between two models, each with their own ELO. And so if it's a really weak model against, a model that's already scored really high, what you're saying is in the ELO system, if that model were to, for some reason, suddenly beat the really good model, the state of the art, shall we say, there's going to be a huge score jump for that.
For both, yeah.
For both. So is it true then that if a new state of the art model launches, we would actually expect all of the LM Arena scores for existing models to go down? Or is it just that the new model has a higher score than all the previous scores?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, because now you're getting into the territory of like, what is the specific implementation that they have here that kind of differs from the traditional ELO system. Right. So in chess, for example, if you and I played against each other on chess.com and we have like a rating and play against each other, there's millions of other chess players out there. An ELO system is dependent on that one instance of the game. So depending on who wins or loses, our scores will adjust. Everyone else's will not be impacted. There's some pros and cons to that. The pros is that like, you don't have to wait for every other match to finish. You don't have to like, it's not dependent on other people. Like your score doesn't adjust just because someone else did better, even though you still won. That's like it's a lot easier to like, account for. That's some of the pros there. But what they're using in here is what's called the Bradley-Terry model, which for all intents and purposes is like exactly the same as what ELO is, with the exception that they are trying to find across all the simulated competitions across each model, like what is the correct number to give. So let me give a concrete example. Let's say I'm playing against you and we have 3 other friends that we're playing against. At the beginning of our match, I lose badly to you just because I had a bad day or something, or like the game just didn't work out the way I wanted to. And I was a 1200 rated player, but I was playing at like a 500 level because I just, wasn't good.
Yeah.
Lose that game, that adjusts my elo, but then I blow everyone else out of the water for the following games. The order of operations actually matters a ton in like the elo system, of like when wins and losses happen. But in the Bradley Terry model, what they're trying to do is completely ignore that. So it's like it doesn't matter which models come first. What matters more is that like we look across all the matches this model has and then find the appropriate number that reflects the minimum amount of like deviance from each competition. So instead of like, independently just changing your value each time, what they're doing here is they're looking at the competition of one model across all models and then saying, okay, we saw these like elo adjustments, but which one out of all the adjustments makes the most sense? And if we were to replay everything again with this new number, does it actually line up with the reality of what happened?
So they're not actually like, if we go to a 24-hour chess tournament, my elo is changing between every single game, right?
Yep.
Sounds like you're saying on LM Arena, the elo tournament between LLMs does not update with every single vote.
Yep.
Because then you can have these weird streaks, right? Where like, if the model is having a good day, shall we say, and wins 4 in a row, it's just accruing elo and it has this weird momentum. So instead, this Bradley Terry system is somehow averaging, it's otherwise deferring the actual like elo accrual, so that one single voter doesn't have like an outsized effect.
Yep. No, that's it. Yeah. So like, with like some of the mathematical breakdowns here, like you don't have to worry about some of this. As an aside, like when reading research papers, sometimes I get really annoyed because there's some equations that get thrown in here that it's like overly complicated. Like for example, this one here is quite literally a mathematical representation of ranking things in descending order. So I'm like, I don't know why would you include that in here? And I could explain each one of these values within here, but it's literally just sort descending or sort ascending.
The white paper authors are gonna white paper author though, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Do it, right?
Yeah, exactly. So in here, like this one, it does make sense to have a little bit of the notations here. So what it's doing is like for each match, remember how before I was sharing that there's like a probability that takes place before a match even happens, So someone's a 1400. Oops.
Whoops, might be.
No, you're good. Someone's a 1400, someone's a 1200. The 1400 has 76% chance of winning, right? And what happens is here, let's say the person with the 76% chance actually loses. Then you get some penalty that happens and you move on to the next match. What this is doing here is what you just explained, where it's like instead of applying it every single time, you kind of just get all of the results before applying the elo score, and then you do some form of like gradient descent, or like this is called like a binary cross entropy loss, which just means like if I were to pick a number, which number would minimize the amount of like differences across like all the results to kind of get like a true rating of this language model without updating it every single time. So all in all, the best way to take away from here is like elo is individuals and like individually updated. Here for the LM Arena, they kind of wait for all the votes to come in and then they make a decision as to what the rating of that is. And it does impact every single other model's rating as well, because everyone's kind of waiting for like, okay, here are the votes that come in. Now let's adjust everyone's rank based off of all the votes that happened.
Is LM Arena in this white paper public about the number of votes before they re-weight or before they rescore?
Not that I spotted. There might have been in here. I don't think so.
I would
I
actually
don't
guess
think.
they're not. But that would be for us in trying to predict whether or not Gemini 3 will reach a score of 1500 before December 31st. That would be helpful. Like one thing that stands out on the current scores is, of course, that both Gemini and Grok's current scores are preliminary. So the score is based on pre-release testing and may shift as community prompts and votes evolve after public launch. And then you can literally see under the number of votes, like these models have only participated in a little over 5,000 tournaments, if you will, or 5,000 individual competitions. Whereas the older models like Claude over 1 has 34,000. But I guess I wonder at what point is considered not preliminary. And I don't know, just try to get some sense for how much their score might move, remembering, I guess, that we need to turn style control off. I was talking to another friend about this market, and what he pointed out was interesting, because remembering that style control is literally only attempting to, and I'm sure that we could go deep on their methodology for this because I wonder how they do it, but it's attempting to remove the effect of length, response length, and markdown. But it's not really controlling for vocabulary or whatever. And when you're asking users to vote for their favorite response, we're at a point where most of the state-of-the-art models are pretty accurate. So you're really asking them to vote for which model they like more. Like people are talking a lot about Gemini 3's personality. And is it better, and 5.1, people kind of like its style. And as much as LM Arena is trying to remove the effect of that style, I feel like that's going to influence these scores, like anecdotally, if you've had a good time with Gemini 3, if you like the way it talks.
They actually mentioned that in their white paper too. They said that one of the limitations is that it's a biased sample of users who are voting on here, because the people who are visiting this website are LLM enthusiasts, right? They are likely software developers. They are likely, more technical than the average person. So the votes that are coming in, like maybe the average person actually doesn't like a cold, calculated, response, but someone who's on LM Arena actively voting is actually seeking that out. And separately, kind of a tangent but somewhat related, is when I was thinking about like using this, I was like, oh, like if there were some manipulation to take place, like if someone could break this market a little bit, what if like during the prompting you ask it like what kind of model it is? And in the white paper they mentioned that they try their best to censor the responses to give like, oh, I'm GPT-5 or I'm like Gemini 3,
Right.
Which is interesting. And they have their own like I did not expect for them to like put details into like their own anomaly detection and stuff in there to like make sure it isn't gamed, but I'm very pleased that they put that in there. You'd think it's like an afterthought of like, oh, we built this thing and then afterwards we'll figure out the safety stuff, but no, they thought about that pretty early on.
That's cool. So just to bring it back to the actual market, and I took a trade on a market similar to this one earlier in the week, around the time, frankly, that it was trading really high. I think the one I traded on was on Koshi, and the specifics were a little bit different. But the reason, I mean, if what happened this week, this is like one of the biggest market moves, I think, in the course of a couple of days.
This is when you pushed out a tweet about this market.
Yes. So for the following pre-market pod on Twitter, like you actually got the alpha that we kind of noticed in this really truly like right around this time. And I haven't even fully closed my position in the related market. But what I was noticing was I think there was an overreaction to the headline number, the preliminary results being 1501, and I think people thought that therefore means it has scored over 1500, but that preliminary score is not, I think, part of the final criteria. And then what I noticed is on the LM Arena, they give you additional information, including a confidence interval on model strength. So this, I guess, is kind of the score range. And in fact, now this upper bound has moved down from what I first noticed, because you're now seeing that you can probably explain this better than me, Matthew, but like presumably this entire range is like the 95% or the 99%. 95.
95 usually, yeah, that's like the standard.
So if the 95%, so that means, I'm asking this as a question. That means that in 95% of the time, the score will settle between 1480 and 1499, right?
That's the intended. That's usually the intent for it. Yeah, it's a whole other thing when it comes to confidence intervals and like bootstrapping and stuff. But for all intents and purposes and for this discussion, yeah, you could think that. So yeah, you're right. Like the upper bound being 1499, that means like breaking 1500 is like highly unlikely. Or it'll be like a pretty rare event for it to take place. I think how you're looking at it and reading it is correct.
Yeah. So, I mean, that almost makes me think that this is still overpriced. Sorry, I'm trying to bring back to the market. Like, so 22% likelihood that any AI model reaches 1500 plus. Gemini 3 is clearly the current leader, the state of the art. It will likely have the highest score.
Yeah.
It will also likely not be 1500. So, in some sense, this market is actually saying that there's a 22% chance that somebody drops a new model that's better than Gemini 3 by the end of the year, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, kind of. That's almost how I interpret it. It still feels high.
Yeah. Either that or, like you said, like, yeah, if you're looking at the 95th percentile, then like it should be at 5% right here in terms of like,
yeah. There's maybe a bit of alpha left in this market, and this isn't like an illiquid market either. I mean, there's over $200,000 of volume trading on this, and there are again a lot of like related markets. Maybe I'll search like LM Arena. Oh well, maybe there's not. Chat. What was the other name of it? Chat Arena. There's a few on Koshi, I think, that are sort of similar. But I don't know. I feel like I would be tempted to buy the no on this even at 22 cents, even at the current price, given what we're talking about, right?
No, yeah, no, definitely. And also given, yeah, I think you had spotted it before around like all of them going down. Like when you first mentioned the ratings going down from a new model coming in, at first I was like, I don't think that's how it works, because I was thinking about ELO. With ELO, it would not work that way. Like everyone would kind of like, and it's actually inflated with how these ratings come up. But because after you send me that white paper that it's using Bradley Terry as like a ranking system that, yeah, it like organically brings everything else down. It's actually harder to kind of like push that boundary or to kind of push these other thresholds. So
it's almost like every additional point that they're scoring becomes harder and harder to earn. Right.
Yeah. So when you're in first place, both in Bradley Terry and ELO, like the likelihood, it's like really hard for you to make big jumps, because even if first plays against second, I mean, we could look at it right now. I mean, with a little toy example that I made. So was that 1490 versus 1465?
Yeah.
1490 versus 1465. Let me share my screen. I don't know. 1490 versus 1465. Like, it's a bit of a coin flip that happens there. So when one of them wins, like, I mean, these points are really high just because of the K factor or like the volatility that's added within here, but there isn't that much of a change between them. It just, I mean, we'd have to look closer at the white paper of what the actual parameters are, but there's a lot more normal.
Just to be clear, your sim is simming regular tournament ELO, not the Bradley Terry thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's why it's a little more inflated, because it's just like in isolation between these two people, but looking at these two ELOs that are like very similar, it also works the same way in Bradley Terry, where it's like a 50% shot. And because it's a 50% shot, like 1 versus 2, the amount of points you're getting is like, I don't know, it's going to be really tough.
Right. Totally. It'd be interesting then to compare the market for will any AI model reach 1500 on Chatbot Arena by December 31st to, if there is a market for, will there be, when will X model release, will Anthropic release Claude whatever this year? Because this seems like there should be, some imputed correlation, if you will, in those markets.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. What do you think, Matthew? Let's move on. I have a quick take for you. Or wait, we already talked about this earlier in the week. We might have talked about this off stream. I was going to ask you, what do you think the Koshi odds of a recession in before the end of 2026 are? I
actually don't think we've talked about this.
Okay, great. I'm so curious what your number is.
Say it again. Say Koshi odds
what are the odds of a recession before the end of next year? And a recession
before the end of next year
being defined as 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth. So you have it's mostly 2026, right? I mean, yeah, but there's not time in 2025 to have 2 quarters of negative.
16%.
16% sounds like a good number to me. I would probably guess something close to that. However, Koshi is giving
Oh, it's literally double.
Literally double.
Literally double.
High, dude. It just feels like a high number.
Yeah.
The expectation is that there will be rate cuts in 2026. I don't know. I mean, I follow some of the news that covers kind of cracks that are emerging, if you will, in the economy with consumer car loans and other things. But this feels high to think that that there's a 1/3 chance of a full out recession next year, meaning 2 quarters of negative GDP growth. Not a super high volume market either, which is a little bit surprising, because this is a market with some real social utility, I feel like. But
yes,
not
as much volume as the Bills game that happened last night, which apparently had more volume than the mayoral race.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, let's fact check that, because I saw someone tweet that, but I mean, if you probably look it up right now on Koshi. Let me actually look for that tweet. Bills game, Koshi mayoral.
Was it Buffalo?
Yes. So this tweet here.
No, it was not.
He's a former reporter for Bloomberg, now a reporter for another thing. Koshi took $52 million in volume in the Bills Texans yesterday. Its most bet single event since the NYC mayoral election, which was open for 4 months. This includes ML spread, total parlays, and props.
Wow. Wild.
That's just a Monday Night Football game.
Wait, okay. Let's see if I actually have the right one. That would be this market, right?
Yes, it would.
Okay, they're saying 38 mil
in volume.
Roughly. Oh, was he talking about fees?
Yeah, he's saying 52 million in volume. It includes the money line, the spread, the total, parlays, and props. So I think it's like a bunch more. Yeah, like 20 million more across like all these other random things. Although you'd think that they would capture that in the main.
Well, I think these are considered their own market.
Oh, I see.
Although I wonder if volume is actually shown for this somewhere. That's crazy though. More than the mayoral. It's wild. Yeah. Koshi stays winning at sports, man.
Koshi stays winning in sports. Sweet. Sorry, I kind of derailed us there for a little bit.
No worries. What should we go into? There's a little shakeup in the Google year-end search markets that I'm happy to talk about.
Sure.
I mean, this is one that, as you know, I've been paying very close attention to. Both who will be the number one searched person on Google, as well as who will be the number one most searched actor on Google. And the resolution criteria, to remind folks who don't already know for this, is a sort of year-in search report that the Google Trends team puts out on an annual basis. The title is a little bit misleading because their methodology is to measure growth in search volume for this person year over year, which is why people who maybe have higher search volume, like Sydney Sweeney, but not as much year over year growth, don't perform as well. So I had a very big position in this market on Mikey Madison, who is the lead actress in what's it called? Anora. Did you see it?
No, I actually didn't.
Oh, you didn't? Okay, so I'll show you why I had this position. We've been using Wikipedia page view data, which is public data, as a proxy for Google search volume. And we've covered this elsewhere and in a Twitter thread, but just looking at Google Trends information isn't the best way actually to assess these markets, because it is normalized depending on the queries that you're looking at it with. But if we look at, for instance, Mike Madison versus Sydney Sweeney for year to date 2025, you can see there was this enormous spike in Wikipedia page views for Mikey Madison in March. And I think this would win Anora won an award. I should know what award. But she kind of had a little viral moment, if you will. And is also coming, I think, from a lower baseline of queries. Whereas there's kind of, I'll take it back to 2024 here. so that we can actually monitor the difference, the kind of year-over-year growth. You can see, like for Sydney Sweeney, there is a lot of volume in previous years. So what's happened this week is that the Koshi editorial team has added an additional option, which is this one, Dharmendra Kul Krishan Joel. I'm sure I'm butchering this person's name. And so immediately I was like, who is this? And I'll show you who this is. This is an Indian actor, producer, politician who is primarily known for his work in Hindi films, widely considered one of the greatest, this is actually hilarious, one of the greatest, most handsome, and commercially successful in the history of Indian cinema. So what happened, if you just scroll a little ways, is there was a fake news
oh, I think I heard of this
viral fake news story of his death. And I already know from looking at data for who will be the most searched person for that particular market that deaths are always the highest volume, right? Like the Charlie Kirk assassination, the volume for this was absurd. It far eclipsed, using our Wikipedia proxy data, it far eclipsed kind of anything else. So the fact that there was a fake news story, rumoring his death, is not a good sign for my existing position. And I'll show you the results if we put in Mikey Madison, who again has this absolute spike in March of this year. And then I'll put in, let me make sure I'm getting this name. I just spelled it completely wrong. Dharmendra.
Dharmen.
And you can see he had an enormous spike here. I mean, an enormous spike just recently, just at the end of the year. Although actually, interestingly, looking at Wikipedia, which I don't know if this is a perfect proxy, but the Mikey Madison spike actually still a little bit bigger.
Yeah, I guess it just depends on if people within India use Wikipedia, right? Because it's possible that like internationally Wikipedia is not as popular, and maybe this is actually undercounting the true search volume.
Right, and I'll show you the actual Google Trends data, which again is totally normalized, but like this is an enormous spike. The only other little wrinkle I would say in this theory, because one would think that like he's got it, of course, the most searched person. The only other little wrinkle is that if we look again at Google's year in search methodology, they highlight. And this is just for last year's release of 2024, that the data was January 1st, November 23rd.
Oh, we're cutting it close.
We're cutting it very close to count his data. And in fact, the local year in search had a cutoff of November 18th. So, and a lot of the queries for, a lot of this viral story was just in the last few days. So it makes you wonder, will the date range, will the cutoff date for this year be the exact same as in previous years? Will they even do the release in the same years? I was trying to use the Wayback Machine to look at this page, the methodology page for previous years, to see if the date had changed. I haven't kind of gone far enough. I think I saw that it did, but I kind of haven't finished going deep on that. Nice. The folks are already placing their bets on Mikey Madison. I don't know. I'd be careful though. I would be careful because I actually don't feel good about my Mikey Madison position. What I do feel good about is taking a no position on Sydney Sweeney. I do not think it will be Sydney Sweeney. So you can almost kind of say the if there's a toss up between Mikey Madison and
Dharmendra.
Embarrassing.
No, it's okay. I mean, I just heard of this person today, so.
The safest bet I think is probably just to take the no on Sydney Sweeney, and there's still a little bit of juice left to squeeze with that bet.
We got a comment from Akshan saying, "Would it be too surprised if we see insiders move the search-related markets before it releases?" It'd be kind of tough. You'd have to spin up millions and millions of bots. I think they try to move that.
Well, wait. I think he's just saying somebody on the Google Trends team could easily.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. I mean, they already did it with the Gemini release, right? Everyone's speculating if there was insider trading with with when Gemini will be released, people spinning up new wallets, betting exorbitant amounts of money on when the release date was. Yeah. Which, by the way, I don't know. I don't actually think it was like insider. I think it's like family, friends, other people who happen to pick up on that signal and just like went all in. I feel like it'd be someone who works at Google. Like, I don't know. I feel like they would know
Well,
better, but maybe I'm being very, yeah,
tweeted about the market.
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So,
feel like this is going to become a bigger question in the next few weeks. Let me pull up the Sundar tweet, or in the coming year. I think this question of insider trading in prediction markets will just continue to become a bigger and bigger question, because it's totally unclear if this kind of thing is okay. We obviously have hosted a debate on whether or not it's good for prediction markets.
yeah, that was like one of our first videos, right? It was like episode 4 or something around that time.
Yeah. But from like a regulatory perspective, I think it's just unclear if, if you're Sundar and you're tweeting about the prediction market bets for when Gemini 3 releases, and some of your staff that knows when it will release trades in that prediction market, do you have a problem with that? Do you discipline them internally? I mean,
No.
is that encouraged?
Definitely.
So desktop for aspiring degens betting heavy on a fresh account and hoping apes follow LMAO.
Actually, yeah. Like, it's actually, I wouldn't be surprised if some people do that. Just like spin up a new account, go all in. I mean, I've seen that so many with sports markets, and not to say that I've been burned on doing that, but I have seen a lot of fresh wallets for sports markets just ape in hard. And it's like, okay, they clearly know something. Some kind of uncut gem situation going on here. But no, it's just someone who wants to punt money. But it's a pretty good strat.
Or I mean, it could also just be users on Polymarket who want to place big bets without a history of all of their other bets, right?
Yeah.
Like, it might not actually be their first ever Polymarket bet. I think maybe they're just isolating it to an individual wallet, right?
Yeah. We got to get the Zach XBT of prediction markets in here.
Right. Absolutely. You are the Zach XBT of prediction markets, bro.
Google actually had an intern prediction market, and it outperformed their managers.
They did. I know this story. They had an internal prediction market for years and years, right? For I think it was just kind of tech related question. Like they've been curious about the technology for some time. So that's cool to realize.
Nice.
Do you want to get into that GDELT project stuff, Matt? Or
oh, sure, yeah. I'll just do like real quick share. So this is not a market, but a data source to share. That I think is pretty neat, and I kind of forgot all about, but I was recently studying some stuff around graph neural networks and graph related stuff, and during one of the videos I saw they shared the GDELT project. It's supported by Google Jigsaw, and the idea is that you're able to get news sources from all around the world in 100 different languages with a 15-minute latency. So like, this is like news sources from like really major news outlets, from local news. It's just from all over the world. And in Google BigQuery, you're able to like query this data. And I think it goes back like 70 years or something crazy like that. So if you wanted to train a model or something around like historical news headlines for something, or even if you want something, a 15-minute latency isn't too slow for you. Which honestly, if you haven't started doing this yet, it's not going to be too slow. That's like a great amount just to kind of get things rolling and kind of like back test and test things out. They have stuff here. They also have a graph database. And that's actually where I was most interested in. Let me see if I can find. I mean, they have some like visuals of it here where you can kind of like connect different topics from around the world of different headlines. But yeah, it's completely free. It's I'm sure others are using this more, or have been using this within prediction markets, and this is just something that I thought was cool to share with the group.
So for sure, though, the way to use this, right, has got to be to spin up an LLM with Gemini 3, be feeding it constant stories like this, and just have it do basically news timing arbs, right? I mean, just have it basically just be markets to the story. We see all the time, especially with geopolitical events, markets don't kind of know exactly how to price new news stories. Maybe it takes some trial and error, but like, that's to me the most exciting way to mess around with this, right? Is to use it as a data source to an LLM that is also hooked up to the Koshi and Polymarket APIs and live trading kind of as stories come in, especially from these niche news sources around the world, right?
Yeah.
Especially news sources that are coming in other languages,
Definitely. Actually, Anne mentioned a question from the previous thread. Did anything change with the most searched person as well, or just the actor market?
Let's look at it. Let's look at it. Totally. I'll pull up the Koshi one. As people know, I'm betting fiercely on the Pope to be the most searched person of the year. I just think that's what our Wikipedia proxy data, which again could not be perfect, shows. Let's see. Trump has actually taken like a bit of a dip in being the most searched. I'm baffled that Trump is still trading at a 10% likelihood to be the most searched person. The problem for folks who haven't followed our previous rants on this is that Trump had enormous search volume at the conclusion of the 2024 presidential election, which means he had a lot of search volume last year. The market will resolve based on year-over-year growth. So it's very difficult for Trump, I think, to show meaningful year-over-year growth versus someone like, the Pope, for whom, the very phrase Pope Leo the 14th didn't exist prior to him kind of taking this on as his Pope name, his papal name, I think. And he was just a cardinal before that. So volume for the term Pope Leo the 14th prior to this year is very, very low. The only reason I think he would lose is if the fact that this name was only created in this year somehow disqualifies the Pope. But I would just be shocked if the Pope didn't take this. I would even take the no on Trump at 90 cents,
What do the kids call it these days? A bond?
A bond.
A bond.
A bond. Right. Although I don't know if they would call that a bond because it's not a sort of super certain thing. A lot of these have come down, I feel like, since I've looked at this. Like Bianca Sensori was kind of trading around the 20-cent line and has dropped some. For some reason on Koshi, I can't get the full history for each individual.
Actually, I'd mention, imagine if they changed the methodology. It's funny you say that. I think early days there were some concerns when that would happen. Sometimes you'll see for really contentious markets, there will be like a little flag that will say like, oh, we're actually considering like these edge cases, and that could be a little bit get a little testy in the comments and also on other threads. But I don't think they will change it for this, just because it's like an outside source. Google's the one who's, Google might change their methodology. Maybe
Right.
That's a very real thing. Like they could just say like, oh, before we looked at these time frames and we like looked at year over year, but this time around we're actually not going to do year over year. We're going to do absolute volume, and that would just like wreck everyone's positions.
Right.
But that's a possibility. I would probably give that like a 3% chance.
Well, if you look at year in search though, and you go back to because they've been doing this since we'll just go to 2019. I think some of the categories are a little bit different, there was a day where I went back and looked at all of them, and I think there was a time where they, for instance, didn't have the passings category. So things do change a little bit, and it could really shake this market for sure.
Yeah, I'd assume though that they probably, just for like level of effort of like they do this once a year, they probably keep the same methodology. I'm thinking in the terms of like an engineer or like a data scientist, where it's like just have some run book where you just like run the same queries that you did last year, make it consistent, don't even think about it. So I think it'll stay the same, but I could be wrong.
The other one I like to look at in relation to the Google's year in search is the top 5 most searched people on Google this year. And in fact, there's even another market for who number 2, the literal number 2. I really like Goran Mamdani for this dude. And I'll show you.
I kind of like Kendrick. I can explain Kendrick later. Yeah.
Can you? Okay, here. Let's bring these people into our Wikipedia analysis.
I think Kendrick would be good.
Okay, fine. Let's drop Kendrick in here. Yeah. What happened with Kendrick? He does have a spike.
Super Bowl performance, new album, GNX, the whole diss track stuff with Drake.
Right. Was that this year?
I think it was last year, but I guess that would kill him. But the Super Bowl, I think, would be the biggest thing for him.
What happened in February? That was Super Bowl?
Super Bowl, yeah. Right. February 8th.
Got it.
Super Bowl 2020.
See though, if I add the Pope here, I'll take out some of our actors and actresses. You can see the Pope on Wikipedia at least. It's better, folks, to use the Lang Views tab on Wikipedia so that you don't just get the English spoken version, but you have to kind of download the CSV and stuff. So I've gone down that path, but this is the easiest proxy. But you can see the Pope just dominates everyone. But Zoran has two big spikes. He has a huge spike when he won the primary, right? He like had a huge viral moment, and then again winning the election, and coming from relative like obscurity of just like
Speaking of Mamdani, kind of a tangent. Have you seen his a little bit of the stream today with him and Trump?
No.
Oh my god!
In the Oval Office, right?
Yeah, they were like buddy. It was like the weirdest thing. Oh yeah, they were like jabbing each other a little bit, and then one of the reporters was just like, "You called President Trump a fascist. Would you stand by those statements today?" And he was like, Mamdani was being diplomatic about it, and Trump was just like, "It's okay. They just want you to say it. I don't care if you say it, buddy." Like it was just like so. And the entire time he's like, "Oh, Trump's like, I actually agree with a lot of what Mamdani said. You'd be surprised how much we have in alignment." And he mentioned Bernie, by the way. He mentioned Bernie and Bernie voters going to Trump, and he was like, "Oh, like I actually see that like a lot of the stuff that he's talking about is like it's not crazy at all." And actually, you'd be surprised how many Republicans would be upset about how much I agree with him. And I'm like, "Oh wow, yeah."
Yeah. Okay. We talked about this on the phone off stream before earlier in the week, but I feel like my world model kind of thesis for going into the midterm elections, which we'll have to do a whole stream on the midterms. Because it's
a whole saga, a whole playlist of episodes.
A whole playlist of episodes. It's gonna be a good time for the three markets coverage. But my whole thesis at the moment is this is gonna be all about affordability. And you're already hearing it. I listened to Ezra.
In that stream, they talk about affordability the entire time. There was like,
this is like the word. This is the word, and there's a battle, I think, between the left and the right as to who gets to own this word, affordability. Trump mentioned so many random things this morning; they're wild. So one bet, I think, or one trade that kind of starts to make sense when you have a worldview that affordability will be kind of what all elections for the next, I think, 2+ years will revolve around, is the Trump stimmy tech. The Trump stimmy tech. So will Trump create a tariff dividend in 2025? This is not interesting to me because it almost definitely won't happen in 2025. But there's a strike here for March 31st, 2026, trading at 18%. I think the stipulation is that Trump would need to pass a certain law. Like Congress would need to work with Trump to do this. Trump is telling you he will do this. He has said multiple times that he will do this. And I think Republicans will realize they need to do this going into the midterms.
You think they would need to do this before the midterms? Like
send out checks to everyone right before an election? Why wouldn't they?
I guess, yeah. I'm trying to think why.
Too big expensive. I mean, the other kind of thing that emerged this week related to affordability was Trump walking back tariffs. He walked back like beef tariffs from certain countries because the price of food, a bunch of food related tariffs, I think.
And also on the Three Markets podcast, in our first ever episode, we talked about the potential banning of lab-grown meat, which I think might be relevant here too. So sorry, just wanted to.
It could be, but it almost works against the idea that there would be a ban, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
it's like Trump knows right now that he has to bring the cost of living down, and that's what the election will be entirely about. And that's actually what the last presidential was probably about. And it's probably what the New York mayoral was about. It'll probably be what the midterms are about. And then it'll probably be what the next presidential is about, right? It's like, it's just entirely an issue of affordability.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I could totally see it being like a proud point of like, I've given the most, given the most back to people. We've made groceries affordable. I mean, whatever. Yeah,
I would even bet that Trump will do student loan forgiveness. I don't know if there is a market for that, but like that plays into the populist affordability kind of
loan
narrative. And I know Biden tried to make moves on this, and there was some pushback, but there was also not a ton of pushback. It feels like a thing Trump will do.
Yeah, we should at least make a tweet out to the Polymarket or Koshi accounts being like, someone set this up.
Right.
I think it's an interesting question to set up.
Yeah. Actually, we also talked in an earlier episode about this is on Koshi. Oh, it's on both, I guess. Will Trump announce a national housing emergency in 2025?
Oh, we did talk about this, yeah.
trading a little high.
That's much higher than I would for 2025. We have it's November
Right.
21st. That almost feels like a bond. I mean, I don't know.
It's definitely a little high.
That's pretty high.
But if there was a 2026 strike for this, like personally, I think I would price that at close to probably 40, maybe 50. I would be buying at 40 probably.
Really?
This is, but members of the administration floated this idea, I think, on financial media many kind of months ago. And in our first episode, I think we dug into what would it take for Trump to do this, et cetera, et cetera. But like leading up to the midterms, the man will do everything he can to address the issue of affordability. And so if it's student loan forgiveness, if it's national housing emergency, if it's tariff stimmy checks, like I just want to take the yes on all of those, you know?
Well, you heard it here, folks. When the markets come up, Josiah will be the other side of those trades. If you don't think it'll happen. Cool. I got one to share.
Please.
All right. Actually, we're at an hour right now. I got like 30 minutes left. Are you good to keep going? Should we?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, cool. Let's do it. So this one's actually a market, not just a data source. How high will Polymarket's mind share go?
Nice.
So I don't know. Have you seen this market yet?
No.
Yeah. So it's asked by Cato, and Cato has a information markets arena page. I think this is
take us to it.
Yeah. It's an arena themed episode we got here today. So what we have here is, by the way, I tried signing us up with our 3 Markets account, and we're not allowed to do anything on this platform because we were suspected as like a associate or affiliate accounts. So I mean, it makes us they're calling us legit is what we're saying.
We've got a Polymarket badge, so we would be biased, right?
Yes, exactly. But I do think so these folks haven't signed up for here, otherwise like I think it's just like monitoring them, and it only shows the top 100 people within here, and mindshare is based off of it's kind of like loosey-goosey in terms of their FAQ and what it looks like. I could open that up later, but let's just look at the leaderboard for right now. We can see Shane, John,
so my understanding is Cato is all about like Twitter noise, right? It's entirely measuring like Twitter.
So yeah.
And so these then are the people who are considered the greatest influencers within this category, right?
Yeah. Oh, we have someone with a similar mug to you saying build houses to distract from Epstein.
Yeah. I mean, Trump. I mean, the other thing maybe to mention, just to return to Trump, his approval rating has been going down. And as I think the affordability issue kind of goes up for a lot of Americans. So.
No, definitely. And I think we should at some point talk about, as things unfold with the Epstein stuff, there's probably a lot more insights that we can get out of that as things are kind of rolling. Okay, cool. I'll go back to
should we invite Tommy on?
Yeah, if he wants to. Thomas, if you want to hop on, you're more than welcome to hop on.
The guest link really quick.
Twitter is full of bots. It is full of bots. I feel like the users that are here, what it looks like is, I think, looking at smart followers and like the breakdown of followers, I probably wouldn't trust that as much because of that same reason you mentioned, IGNC. But how Cato works, let's actually look at their FAQ to share what this is. So they are, what is Yapper Mindshare? It measures the share of voice an individual account contributes to a specific project. So they have some kind of loosey-goosey kind of criteria of like what kind of contributions relate to a specific topic. They also mention that they have some kind of penalty around like malicious behavior. So if there's like coordinated group farming, solicited engagement farming, fake or bot accounts, I have a tough time feeling like this is like a foolproof way of detecting this. I mean, if X as a platform is having, every platform has a tough time of like detecting these things. Like it'd be kind of hard for a third-party platform to kind of come up, but I'm sure they have some kind of metric to kind of discount.
Yeah, I think within crypto Twitter, they're like pretty well regarded in terms of their ability to identify mindshare, right?
I think so. They also have some other methods of like boosting and stuff, whatever that might mean. So there might be like, if there's some level of consistency, it looks like demonstrating loyalty. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe if John Wang ends up tweeting that, hey, Polymarket's not too bad, that it just nukes his his mind share. But anyways, yeah, so we have
Well,
this
the tweet
here.
would go viral though, so I feel like it would just boost his mind share, right?
Maybe.
Um,
How is it a percentage? Yeah, so let's look at that. Share of voice of all discussions related to the topic. So it must mean that of all the accounts that they've identified talking about a topic, that this person, so Shane makes up like 4.79% of it. So I guess if you were to think about like every tweet relating to like Polymarket, Shane taking up close to 5%, that's pretty high, like for an individual to take up that like mind share.
right. The mind share, exactly. He's 5% of the total mind share, or I think of it as the influence, right? Like he has 5% of the influence of all of info markets or prediction markets. At least
and it looks like actually Koshi and Polymarket are like neck and neck right now.
what is the
39.39, 36.96. But yeah, it's a pretty fun little market to look at. There's some
take us to the market now. Okay, so 39. So it's 39 to 39 ish between Koshi and Polymarket. I feel like what we saw earlier on the stream was that trade volume from this new Binance offering opinion market is going way up. In fact, it surpassed Polymarket and Koshi this week for the week. So it would make me think that both of these could lose some mind share if this goes from being basically a duopoly to more of a, to having a third major platform.
Yeah, look at this. Opinion Labs at 2% right now. That's a big gap between the amount of volume that they're doing and the amount of mind share that they have. So yeah, that's very interesting to look at. But there's also another thing that I wanted to call out here with this market. So it's at any point between November 20th to March 31st. And it only has to be one day. Let me see if I could find it. If the resolution source is unavailable, no, where is it?
On any one day, if their mind share hits this number.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out where I'm seeing. Do you see it? I don't actually see it, but I remember reading that somewhere.
Specifically the daily values, it's the second paragraph, for Polymarket under historical data will be used to resolve this market. So on any single day.
Yeah, it's for the daily values, yeah.
And this is for at any point between November 20th and March 31st. Take us back to those numbers.
So again, let's look at the strikes again. 70, 75, 85, yeah.
Wait, so there's an 87% chance that Polymarket more than doubles their Kaido mind share less than doubles, but it needs to make a pretty big move from 40% roughly to 70% by March 31st, 2026. And this market thinks that there's an 87% chance of that. That's crazy.
Hold on. There's got to be something we're missing here. Let me look at the past 12 months. Yeah, I don't understand.
Hit historical data above the selector. Yeah, go to that.
Okay, Polymarket historical. Okay, so there's something that we're missing. It must be like close to real time. So it looks like there's some days.
November 15th, 68.93. So I guess it's true. They just need to have a really big announcement.
Yeah.
They need to have a big announcement on Twitter. They just have to have it one day where they are super viral on Twitter, right?
Yes. And then they'll crack that 70. We got a question saying, was there a Polymarket for if Trump and Mamdani will meet? I think there was. Let me see. Trump, Mamdani.
Oh my God, there was a how long will Trump and Mamdani shake hands on Friday market? Glorious thing. Let me bring that one up.
I mean, yeah, if we got that, then we got.
So let's see how this thing traded. It looks like the kind of market consensus before the meeting was between 2 and 6 seconds. And then unfortunately, it looks like it was less than 2 seconds.
How do you clock that? Who's clocking this? That's so funny.
Let me find the video.
Yeah, we gotta do a count. What we need is a big issue on the handshake. He did like 2 seconds. Oh, that was the killer. No one said how many handshakes. This isn't collective. Damn.
Wait, we're gonna get into the handshake video here. Give me 1 second.
That was a good call out. 3 2-second ones. Maybe Mamdani's in this market. How else? You know, we got to fundraise for the campaign before he takes office. You know, the Koshis, the poly markets. Sorry, I shouldn't. This is so degenerate. Yeah, it is. And Josiah and I've had a lot of conversations about the social good of prediction markets, and you know, there's some things like this where it's just like people just want to have fun on predicting things. There's a lot of other markets that we see that we you know, that probably might have more social good, but they don't have enough volume. Like
the question for prediction markets net in terms of societal value will become, do the markets with real social utility, you know, that are predicting economic or geopolitical events, outweigh the markets that are clearly proxies for gambling, right? Such as certain sports markets, maybe not even sports markets, but mentioned markets maybe. And again, I mean, there's a fine line, but certainly there's markets with less actual kind of societal utility in terms of forecasting a thing. Sorry, I'm looking.
And you know what? And also, and that's okay. I think that's the take that we had one episode. Which episode was it? Just I think it was like episode 5 or something, where both you and I had like an at-length discussion. It was completely unscripted, just like we were just like talking about it. So feel free to check out the YouTube channel if you want to see it. Let me actually see what episode that was. Oh, look at that. We got a guest here. We got Thomas Tolis who has joined the stream. We got to add him
friend of the show.
There he is.
Okay,
hey guys.
Here's at least one of the handshakes.
Wait, hold on. We gotta show we gotta bring this. Can we? Yeah, there you go. Oh wait, shit. This is better. There you go.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you a little bit.
Wow, what an honor.
We're live to our audience, Thomas. It's a large audience, so
what an honor. Hello, everyone. Prediction Oracle, Thomas. Does Thomas care about the technical industry aspects of prediction markets? Not as much. Is Thomas good at predicting where the zeitgeist is? Yeah. So throw some red meat at me, and I'll tell you what's going to happen. This is my favorite Trump meeting. So, was there a market? Oh, you guys can't. Can you hear me? It says connection lost.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Shoot.
Hello? Can you probably?
Okay. So, was there a market for Trump and Mamdani meeting?
Dude.
There was, yes. There was.
And
yes,
what was the odds of it before it happened?
We gotta find it. Hold on, let's see. Let me see. Trump Mamdani meeting poly market.
Yeah, here's a good one. There was a will Trump disparage Zoran Mamdani on Friday market. Not a ton of volume in this, but there was a 50 to 60% likelihood that he would disparage Zoran Mamdani on Friday.
Oh, I wish I saw this market.
Incredible market.
I will say my take is that I think that poly market's having this interesting moment, and so is Kalshi, right? But the prediction market as an industry is sort of popping off. And it's interesting because it's a non-election year, right? And previously they've gotten a lot of sort of press and a lot of traffic and a lot of volume surrounding election. So the prediction market as like an industry, as an idea, it sort of does revolve initially around politics. I mean, like Predictit was kind of the first US based prediction market. I think Predictit is defunct now. I think that they got shut down because they were trying to be regulatory compliant and blah blah blah, and they were in like pre-crypto, but it did survive around politics. And of course now you see prediction markets, you know, being more about culture and sports and different things, and that's because we're not in an election cycle right now, and they're doing a good job of sort of maintaining relevance outside of politics. I think as soon as we start getting into the primaries in 2024, all of this volume is going to move into the primary race. It's going to be very sort of political again. But I think that poly market and Kalshi are risking their reputation when they launch sort of irrelevant markets or hard to discern markets, or markets where even this, like will Trump disparage Mamdani? That's an interesting market to have. I think that the market curation on these platforms, the people who are running these platforms need to be really, really careful about curating markets that are relevant, that are actually important. Like will Taylor Swift be
I don't
pregnant?
think so.
Okay,
I think
that's fine.
I think
That's a
they could
fine
just make.
market. But it
Oh, sorry. You're kind of. Hello.
You're cutting out, bro.
You're cutting, you're cutting in and out. I was gonna say it's cheap for them
oh
to make
no.
markets. It's not
Oh,
gonna like.
let me.
It's okay. It's cutting in and out. But I was gonna say, if you can hear me, I think it's actually really cheap for them to
Shoot.
make markets of these topics. It's not like it's gonna like siphon liquidity off to different things. And also, in relation to politics, we were talking about it earlier today. How sports are just absolutely dominating these things. Like yesterday was a Monday Night Football game, and it did more volume than the NYC mayoral race, which has been a market that's been up for 4 months versus like a 24-hour random Monday Night Football game that did like more volume than it. And I think that like sports are going to continue
Right.
to dominate until they make sports betting on prediction markets illegal, if that happens. But I don't know. That might actually be a good market. Will
Right.
we
And
lose those sports markets?
yeah. The double-sided order book is a better way to predict sports outcomes than traditional bookies, right? So I could see them basically uh like replacing, the Vegas style sports books in that sense. So I think it makes a lot of sense for sports and it's good for sports. And you're right, it doesn't cost them anything to put up what I would consider kind of a market. But I think that there's like sort of this within the industry of like, well, who has the most markets and who can launch markets that they're just trying to keep on the platforms. And so I do kind of wonder though, like if there's a risk of like reputational damage essentially, where like you get overloaded with like these low volume markets that don't have any actual like uh don't have any actual what's the word like I guess you know what I
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
mean? Like I could see, like valuable cultural and societal markets existing outside of the fact that people are just trading volume, blah blah blah. You know what I mean? Like it is actually the wisdom of the crowds is a sort of powerful thing. But do we need the wisdom of the crowds to tell me if it's going to be 72 degrees in New York City or 69 degrees? You know what I mean?
I don't
Like,
know, man.
okay,
Before
it's
I step
fun.
outside
I
of my
get it.
house, dude.
There's like a niche for everyone, and everyone if you're a total like airline geek and you want to talk about.
We're losing you, Tom.
We're losing you, Thomas.
Shoot, my connection's not very good.
Other
No.
markets have no utility. Yeah, I mean, Matt,
You
remember
guys can drop me. You guys can drop me.
Sounds good. We gotta drop you, Tom. I'm
If the
sorry.
connection's bad, I don't want to destroy your
It's
stream.
okay.
I'll come on
We
at
gotta
another
come on
point,
at another
and I'll
point,
make my point.
Yeah,
Let me just.
we'd love your takes on the midterms. Maybe when we go into the midterm elections.
The red meat
I
take.
He's still on. I just hit him. Sorry. Okay, now I gotta remove.
No, that's fine. He's done.
I'm sorry.
I don't know if so recall the Matt Levine article that we read years ago. The Matt Levine article that we shared on the stream a few episodes ago, Matt, where I think part of the sort of devil's advocate case that he made for sports on prediction markets was related to bringing in additional volume from people who see a prop bet for let's say the Trump Mamdani handshake. Maybe there's no real societal value to that, but that brings people onto the platform, which creates additional volume in some of the more, you do have to grow these platforms in terms of the number of users by offering them interesting markets to trade in. And then the net result is kind of a greater crowd for, to collect wisdom from for the more important markets.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry, I see Thomas joined again.
Why is this guy back? What do you need?
Sorry.
What do you need?
I believe I fixed my connection. I believe I fixed my connection, and I didn't get to finish making my point. But I just want to. I do think it's important. The other important thing that I see, and I don't know if this is even the topic you guys are talking about, but I do see like when they release these markets that are a little, what is the word? Too vague. Like the outcome is too vague to discern. And I think that like a lot of these platforms are being kind of careless in releasing these markets that leave way too much up to interpretation. And I understand they all have their own resolution metric and their own, like resolution system, but I still think that they're going to begin to sort of lose volume and users and credibility if people feel like they've gotten burned by, will Zelensky wear a suit and he's wearing like a half suit, half not suit, and then you're never going to please everybody. And so it doesn't even matter how robust your resolution system is. I think that like they have to be really careful in how these markets are kind of curated. And so, of course, the surefire, safe way to create relevant and actually important markets are sports and politics, and then a few other things. So it's funny, but to the same point, like I also see a lot of markets missing. Like I can come up with 10 markets right now. Like when I say, is there a will Mamdani meet Trump market? That market should have existed for the last year. Like Mamdani's been relevant for the last year, and Trump's been relevant for decades. So
Do
like
you
that
want to
should have
cover
existed a
about,
long time ago.
related to your observation about market resolution? Do you want to cover a little bit of the drama in the government shutdown market resolution?
Dude, there's all kinds. I remember there was a market during the election for will Joe Rogan endorse Donald Trump? Okay. Of course, there was also a market for will Donald Trump go on the Joe Rogan podcast. There was a market for will Kamala go on the Joe Rogan podcast. There was a market for will Donald Trump go on the Lex Friedman podcast. And
Dude,
these
I
are
had a
all,
big
like,
win
those are
on will Dana White attend the inauguration. Huge win.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Well, it was Joe Rogan. It was Joe Rogan, not Dana White. But I remember.
Yeah,
So
Joe Rogan, right.
what was the resolution problem there, Tom? I mean, I seem to
Well,
recall Rogan
on the
addressing.
night there was a cutoff. There was a deadline cutoff date for will Joe Rogan endorse Donald Trump. I think it was, I don't know, remember, it was like October 30th or something. It was like, it ends a few days before the election, and then Trump puts out within hours of that market closing. Rogan posted on his Instagram story, and he said, "I will be voting for Donald Trump. I think he's the best one." Immediately, that market nearly resolves. Right, it goes to like 99, and then people realize that is saying I will vote for someone the same as saying I endorse someone. And there's immediately this huge conflict, and the market goes into turmoil. And this has happened so many times to so many different markets. And I think that it resolved no. I think it resolved that he didn't endorse people, which is also funny because, and I'm sure that you've seen this, you have a lot of people in the markets who are bonding essentially, and they're just purchasing every single thing that's at 95%, and they look at it as a bond, and they actually think that there's a bias towards people who are making these sort of long shot like lottery ticket bets of like, well, maybe something will get. And that I actually don't think is a bias one way or the other necessarily. Some markets are overvalued after the resolution is assumed, and some
Okay,
markets
you
are
must not
actually
be a regular
assuming
viewer of the
too
pod.
confident.
We have the data on the cognitive biases when we look at the percentage resolution to yes, according to market
Yeah.
odds any hour before. And I think the observation, we covered this in like episode 2, was that there is a bit of I think it's degen theory, aka mispricing of risk. Folks who are basically taking long shots, with potentially bigger returns, and this showed up in the data. I think in that
I don't like that data. I don't like that data though, because there are certain things. Again, it depends on how each market is. It depends on which markets are included. Like for example, if you have a crypto market for like, will Bitcoin hit 80,000 by the end of November, and it hits 80,000, then it's like, okay, fine, that market. But like like that's a hard truth thing. That's not hard to. But will Zelensky wear a suit? Will Joe Rogan endorse whoever? Will the government shutdown be ended by this date? Some of these things. So it's like you kind of have to look at like it's almost impossible to aggregate that data because again, like if the temperature in New York City drops to 70 degrees, and then
You
it's
know
like,
what would be a
well,
cool
within an
project?
hour of resolution, they did.
Yeah, you made a cool project
Mhm.
actually. Sorry. When I think what might be cool is that like for each, because what you're saying is that some markets have resolution criteria that are like hardened. Like you could even hook up like an API to like auto resolve. You don't like need anyone to actually like look at it. While others can be more subjective. There should be a grade on each of the markets. Like this, obviously the poly marketing and Koshi like wouldn't create this themselves. There would need to be like a third party like project or something to say like what is the like reliability of the like rules or resolution criteria of this market, and that actually might be very informative to be like, oh, like if we're looking at measles cases and it's like coming from the CDC's like API, then it's probably like a very high graded like market to participate in. But if it's like, yeah, Zelensky wearing a suit, it's like, well, there's going to be, it's going to be a little bit shaky. Like, not only do you have the odds that you're trading against, but you're also trading against whatever the resolution criteria.
Well, in theory, the UMA protocol
Yeah.
does kind of handle this itself by itself creating a incentive for a distributed network of people to basically vote on the resolution of a market.
Even forget the UMA protocol. Forget the UMA protocol. I mean that.
Did you just kick him?
What happened in the no, did I kick him on accident?
Oh, I don't know. I thought you did.
Well, he's as good as kicked. What happened in the government shutdown market of what day will the government shutdown end is that the bill itself actually passed on whatever it was. I think it was November 15th or 16th. But the resolution criteria for this market was related to when the OPM, the Office of Personnel Management, would actually announce via their website that the government was officially reopened, which did not happen until the following day. And so there was quite a bit of drama in this market as it approached resolution, because it became a market really for, will the OPM intern wake up and update the website? Like the bill had fully passed, but the website updated late. I saw one thing on Twitter of a user who lost close to $500,000 trading on the day because they were treating it like a bond. I wish I've been getting this bug a lot lately for historical markets where the data.
No, I think it's like that for me too. I think they just don't. They don't show as much love for the historical markets.
Here's one tweet that's at least related to this. Somebody even made a OPM website monitor that was checking for whether or not the OPM site itself had updated, because the bill had passed and people were just kind of waiting. Ultimately, it became, the market resolved, I think, not to the date that the bill passed, but to the following date when the website actually updated. I'm surprised I don't see an UMA dispute on that one, because I seem to recall it being like wildly contentious. Let's go to the comments here. A lot of read the rules, the title of the bet is what day will the government shutdown end? It ended legally when it was signed by the president, blah, blah, blah. Let's go to the top. Somebody pointing out the rules. Hey guys, OPM system administrator here. We've received a lot of feedback in the last few hours, so we are shutting down the office for a week. No updates will be made. Yeah, very, very crazy.
So with this government shutdown market, the interesting thing is that they I feel like they actually try and do sort of this hard-coded source of truth, where it almost makes the UMA protocol kind of irrelevant, because they're simply saying, will this website on this date, this is our exact resolution metric. And that's what people want. They want in the resolution metric. But then you have this disconnect between the spirit of the market resolution metric, because they have to come up with this hard metric that, so for example, in weather markets, it's very easy. They simply say, like, here's the website with the weather data, and everybody knows that, like, this is what it's going to be based off of. Market, they say, like, okay, we're using this platform, we're using this dark candle of wind, and so there's sort of no. But with this one, the spirit betrayed, because what people assume that what the market is actually really meant to predict, what people really care about, like the average Joe Schmo going to work, he doesn't really care about whether this website is updated on this date or not. He wants to know if the government will be, and it wasn't. And so it's sort of resolved, it sort of betrays the, like the cultural good, like the value prop of having it exist.
For sure. Also, I liked what IGNC said, saying the only way to not get burned is to not hold to resolution. Sad truth. I completely agree with that. I think we talked about this a few times in previous episodes, where it's like, buy the position you like and set some limit orders, because holding the resolution, that is the actual gamble, honestly.
That's why I don't even like to call these markets approaching resolution bonds. People call them bonds. I mean, it's really, you got to read the Black Swan book. You know, I mean, that's
Yeah.
not what this is. And here it played out. This is the user I was remembering, half a pound.
Oh,
Unfortunate name. This must be real. We'd have to look this guy up on Portfolio or something.
we gotta get him on the pod. We gotta get
I'm
him on
nearly
the pod.
$500,000 in profits disappeared from basically an attempt to bond, quote unquote.
Yeah, I would assume that all of that profit was from bonding markets, though. I mean, right? This is just simple.
Right. Yeah. It's
For
picking
sure.
Large number.
Like, this is the black swan, bro. Yeah.
What's the graph?
Yeah.
If you bond for long enough, then like you're gonna hit a win, you know.
There's a graph. There's a meme that I'm trying to find. No, it's like a turkey's life up until Thanksgiving, where it's like every day.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
I need to find it, but we gotta pull it up because it's exactly what's happening here. Turkey's life meme.
I got it.
Oh, you got it. Nice.
Or it's,
the first one, right?
But it certainly communicates the sentiment here, right? Like turkey's weight happy.
That is bonding until Turkey Day comes. Speaking of Turkey Day, I actually do have a market, if it's okay to transition to, relating to Turkey Day.
Totally. If you have more time, let's do it.
Okay, yes, I do. So let me pull it up. It's how many people are going to be traveling to Thanksgiving this year. Also, it shows, I don't know if Thomas is still here.
Oh, the TSA market.
Yeah, there's two of them, or there's a few of them actually. Let me pull it up.
Okay, well, so you know our guest next week built an entire sort of Monte Carlo model around prior TSA numbers, right?
Oh, I didn't realize that. Maybe I should save it for that actually, because like the one was it for Thanksgiving in particular, or was it the number of TSA passengers?
Number of TSA passengers this week.
Got it. Yeah. This is the variant of it, but I'll probably go more in depth the next time. Then the variant of it was this: will more people travel on Thanksgiving than last year? And the tricky one with this is that this is actually Thanksgiving. I think this is the day of Thanksgiving, right? 27th. I should know this.
Yes. What's wild is the day of Thanksgiving changes pretty dramatically from year to year, right? In fact, I fetched this when I was looking at the TSA travel numbers. So since 1942, there have been 12 occurrences where Thanksgiving was the 22nd, 12 where it was the 23rd, 15 where it was the 24th, 14 where it was the 25th, 14 where it was the 26th, 12 for the 27th and the 28th. So the day of the month that Thanksgiving falls on, changes pretty dramatically.
Yeah. So if it's looking at TSA numbers for November 27th, then I guess the answer is yeah, right? Like I don't know, but no, that's not true because people could leave or come home. You might be fighting up against like actually harder days.
There's got to be some way to correlate the two. I mean, Mr. Frockstory is our guest that we'll bring on next week. So maybe we'll just tease the conversation for next week. But this user basically built a model that takes into account FAA cut distribution 2024 baseline and uncertainty bands around growth and ops drag to estimate the number of TSA passengers for the week of Thanksgiving, which is, I think, the week we're in right now. This is the market number of TSA passengers, November 23rd to 30th. And then, you can see I replied here basically saying like, well, are you taking into account the fact that the date on which Thanksgiving fell varied pretty dramatically? And I think he had responded. He said, I normalized across multiple years and used year-over-year growth. He had also mentioned he was using 3 prior years, and if the date had changed that dramatically over just 3 years. He said for FAA cuts modeled as a probabilistic drag term, mandated reductions times share of traffic at affected airpoints. And then I had also asked, like, well, are you looking at pricing?
Yeah.
For that pricing for flights is going to impact how many people actually either fly or drive or travel at all the week of Thanksgiving. And he said, I think Thanksgiving week is price inelastic and capacity driven. So fares/affordability have minimal explanatory growth versus power versus growth and ops drag, which I would maybe challenge him a little bit on this. But we'll have him on the stream next week. So
yeah, that's exciting. Sweet. I don't know why I did not realize that.
sorry, I thought I sent you this one.
No, you definitely did. You definitely did, and I just didn't connect the dots. I saw this market. I'm like, wow, this is a fun market to look at. So now I'm even more excited for next week's episode to actually like dig in with them because their approach is a lot more, just a lot more detailed and sophisticated.
Any market where there's a combination of like historical data, but also some net new information, like this year, the rolling effects of the government shutdown, et cetera, maybe even the affordability stuff that we were talking about before, trying to kind of model that in. If there's folks out there who have a strong conviction bet on a prediction market on either Polymarket or Koshi, like reach out to us on Twitter. And if we're curious about it, like we'd love to bring people on and just kind of debate some of these.
Yeah, either you all can talk about it or just bring it up and then watch us fumble through what the prediction is and be like, wow, that's my counterparty. I'm going to make a lot of money. Either works, but I feel like there's let's see. I don't think there's anything else that is top of mind. I think we covered
one more plug.
plug.
Oh, hit the plug. Week, live on the stream, we will be giving away the entire Polymarket swag box. I have this sitting across the room from me, Matt, and like there's good stuff in there. So we're giving this away to one subscriber. Make sure you reply to the tweet. It's pinned to the 3 Markets Pod Twitter account. And I think we will use one of these random selectors to actually select a winner live on stream next week and get your shipping address and get that out to you.
Yeah, some cool swag.
Shall we leave it there, Matt?
I think so. I think we get a good. It's a pretty solid episode today. I feel like with the live stream, we're doing good with like weaving in and out of these topics. And thank you all for watching and chatting. Really appreciate that. The chats that come in actually make it really easy for us to kind of like, get the juices flowing and start chatting a little bit more. Stay tuned for more episodes. And I keep mentioning in previous episodes that I'd like to do some more walkthroughs and stuff of like, how would we think about other markets using specific tools? Like, I don't know, using guesstimate, using some Bayesian approaches for stuff. Like we'll get to that at some point, but in the meantime, we're having a lot of fun with like, just, I don't know, chatting about all the markets that are coming up.
By the way, Matt, I don't think I told you, I got the actual copy of Super Forecasters.
Oh, you did? Nice.
I've been basically posing for too long that I've actually read the book, and you've referenced it so many times. So I will provide a comprehensive review when I've actually.
It's great. It's really great. I wish I had the hard copy. I read it on a Kindle, and I'm like, wow. Usually with books that I really like, I want to get the hard copy version of it. But we probably could do a little book club or something for. Forecasting and like
new dream guest for the pod. Let's get these guys on here, man. Let's get the pod. We have some fun guests coming up, I think, over the next month. But certainly would be cool to bring on some of the OGs.
I think I'm still here.
Speaking of,
we're wrapping the pod, Tom. Sorry, we're wrapping the pod.
I think one quick thing just to leave everyone on the buzzer. The most interesting way I think to sort of gauge the accurate price on a market is to look at like I can add, like right now there's a market for will Trump be out as president before end of 2027, right? What do you think that market is priced at? Like what do you each think is the appropriate price for without even doing any of the data you're not? No, don't look it up. Don't look it up. Like that's my whole point. Is like it's interesting to sort of before you look, you immediately, you immediately have a bias when you see the price, and you immediately sort of think like, well, the wisdom of the crowds is smarter. Like people must know something that I don't know, and so you see the price, and you actually sort of start to build around like why is it appropriately priced when really it could be shockingly inappropriately priced. So like on this market, like will Trump be out as president before 2027? What do you each think? Like gut impulse is the fair market value.
Yeah. Okay. We've talked before about the kind of anchoring bias of looking at the market.
Well, let me hear your anchoring bias on.
Okay.
What's the question?
Will Trump
leave office early?
So that is basically meaning will he? I mean, the causes of him leaving would have to be death.
6%.
No, there's quite a few different causes. Yeah. There's quite a few different causes.
6% sounds good to
Joe?
me too. I'm trying to think, would I go under?
17. It's at 17%. So see, but it's interesting because that implies that it's more than twice as mispriced as you would sort of otherwise assume.
Yeah.
So
Get in at 17,
I
set
don't
a
know.
limit
It's an
order.
interesting.
Or
Yeah,
get in
17.
at,
I also agree that it feels quite high. So maybe people are just crunching mostly, health statistics on that. But I don't know. When are the insurance companies? When's the insurance companies putting money in on these? Okay.
Definitely.
Anyway, I'll let you guys go.
No worries, Thomas. Next time,
Just here to wrap
you're more than
people up.
welcome to hop on. We just got to make sure that you get a solid connection because we'd love to chat more about some of these things. It's
Yeah,
just a little
Tom,
tough
you're
Yes,
putting
that's true.
the screen with your potato quality camera, please. Thank you. Trump out as president
I'll pull my favorite.
17%. That's crazy, dude. That's crazy, right? Why is it so hot?
That's nuts. Maybe this is a market we talk more about too in depth in future episodes and stuff. We could bring that on with our guests or something and have them walk through it. Adrian, appreciate the DM. We'll definitely chat more. That's another thing for this podcast too. We love the idea of having builder spotlights and showcasing what everyone's building within the space. That's something that is near and dear to our hearts, and we like to share.
Yeah, a lot happening in the ecosystem. So we'll be sure to cover more of that. All right, shall we leave it there, Matt? I know you got to get out of here.
Let's do it. Yeah, I gotta head out. But as always, it was great talking, and thank you all for participating in the chat. And hope everyone has a good weekend and Turkey Day if you celebrate that. Yeah. Peace.
I'm gonna cut to our outro. There we go.
Oh.
Let's go. Oh shoot.